Massive stones hold a secret conversation with the stars. This video reveals 25 ancient structures, from forgotten temples to iconic pyramids, that align with constellations. You will discover how our ancestors built permanent maps of the night sky, and by the end, you will never look at a ruin or a star the same way again. Why would cultures separated by oceans and millennia go to such impossible effort to mirror the heavens in stone? What message were they trying to leave across the ages? What does this shared celestial language tell us about the very first scientists and their view of the universe? To truly appreciate these alignments, we need to step into the mindset of the builders. This is the heart of archaeoastronomy, a field that bridges ancient stones and ancient skies. It asks not just how structures were built, but why they were pointed so precisely toward the sun, the moon, and specific stars. For these cultures, the cosmos was not a distant spectacle. It was a living map, a divine clock, and a sacred story all at once. A single standing stone or menhir might cast a shadow that touches a certain point only on the longest day of the year. A vast ring of stones could frame the rising of a star cluster used to mark the changing seasons. These were not random placements. They were the result of generations of watching, recording, and understanding patterns in the heavens, a kind of knowledge that was both spiritual and intensely practical. It guided planting and harvests, dictated the timing of ceremonies, and connected the community to the rhythms of the universe. When we see a multi-ton slab perfectly aligned to a solstice sunrise, we are witnessing the culmination of that deep, observed wisdom. It represents a colossal physical effort, yes, but one directed by a sophisticated intellectual tradition. This challenges the old idea of prehistoric people as simple or primitive. They were the first astronomers, using the landscape itself as their observatory and their temple. As we move through these 25 sites, remember that each alignment you see is a deliberate sentence in a long, silent conversation between earth and sky. The stones are the punctuation marks, but with such a grand claim comes a necessary question. How can we be sure an alignment is real and not just a coincidence or a modern wishful interpretation? After all, the night sky is full of stars and ancient ruins are scattered everywhere. This is where our journey requires a map of its own, a set of clear criteria to separate compelling evidence from speculative fiction. Our selection of 25 sites is not based on mystery alone, but on a foundation of rigorous research. We rely on verified archaeological surveys that detail a structure's original orientation, not just how it looks today after centuries of shifting. We look to peer-reviewed astronomical studies that can calculate with precision exactly which stars were visible and where they rose or set thousands of years ago. The most powerful alignments are those that can be reproduced, meaning if you stand at a specific stone on a specific date, you will witness the celestial event the builders intended you to see, just as they did. Beyond the pure mechanics of angles and dates, we consider the cultural layer. Does the alignment match a constellation featured in the local mythology? Was that star or star group associated with a god, a season, or a story of creation for the people who built there? Finally, statisticians weigh in, calculating the probability of such a precise alignment happening by random chance. When all these factors converge, verified archaeology, reproducible astronomy, cultural mythology, and statistical significance, the case becomes incredibly strong. This meticulous approach ensures our list showcases the most credible and awe-inspiring examples of ancient celestial architecture. It transforms a curious pattern into a documented conversation, one where the stones speak a language we are finally learning to decipher. That conversation between earth and sky finds its most iconic expression in the sands of Egypt. The Great Pyramid of Giza does not stand alone. it is part of a grand celestial design. The most compelling theory suggests its famous silhouette is a terrestrial echo of a constellation. The three primary pyramids at Giza, those of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure, are arranged in a distinct diagonal pattern across the plateau. This pattern is not a perfect straight line. The central pyramid is slightly offset to the southeast. Now look up to the night sky, to the three bright stars that form the belt of the constellation Orion. Their arrangement mirrors this earthly layout with uncanny precision. The central star, Alnilam, is similarly offset from a perfect line. This mirroring becomes even more profound when we account for the slow wobble of Earth's axis over millennia, a cycle called precession. When astronomers calculate where Orion's belt stood in the ancient sky, they find that around 10,500 years before the Common Era, the constellation's orientation matched the pyramid layout almost exactly. While this specific date is debated, the correlation itself is too precise to dismiss as chance. The alignment was woven into the pyramid's very architecture. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, the King's Chamber has a narrow shaft that angles upward through millions of stone blocks. Research confirms this southern shaft was engineered to point directly at the heart of Orion, which the Egyptians linked to Osiris, the god of rebirth and the afterlife. This transforms the entire Giza plateau from a simple cemetery into a functional cosmic machine. It was a permanent star map built in stone, designed to guide the soul of the pharaoh. His journey was not into darkness but toward the eternal and familiar stars, ensuring his resurrection among the immutable lights of heaven. The pyramids were his launch pad, and Orion was his destination. Yet the ambition to build a cosmic clock in stone was not confined to the sun-baked deserts of Egypt. Far to the north, on the windswept Salisbury Plain, another civilization undertook a project of staggering scale and precision. Stonehenge stands as a silent testament to a profound understanding of celestial cycles. While its alignment to the summer solstice sunrise is world-famous, its relationship with the stars reveals an even deeper layer of sophistication. The great sarsen stones form a circle, but the monument's true design extends far beyond it. A long avenue approaches the site, and at its head sits the solitary heel stone. On the winter solstice, the setting sun sinks directly behind this massive pillar when viewed from the center of the circle, framing the year's shortest day with dramatic intent. This solar alignment is undeniable, but it may be just one function of a more complex machine. Researchers examining the site's various phases of construction note that certain gaps between the towering trilithons and the orientation of the avenue itself could have pointed toward significant star clusters. The brilliant star Sirius or the delicate Pleiades might have risen in these precise stone-framed windows during key periods over Stonehenge's long history. Think of it not as a single-purpose calendar, but as a multi-layered astronomical computer. The solar alignments mark the powerful, obvious rhythms of the year, the solstices and equinoxes that governed light and warmth. But the stars, with their slower, more subtle shifts across millennia, could have provided a longer-term clock, a way to track generations or even larger cosmic cycles. By combining solar, lunar, and stellar observations, the builders of Stonehenge created a resilient system. If clouds obscured the sunrise on a crucial morning, the position of a familiar star group could have provided a backup, ensuring their ceremonial and agricultural calendar remained accurate. This integration of multiple celestial bodies speaks to a sustained, generational project of observation. It transforms Stonehenge from a simple temple into a permanent observatory, its stones acting as fixed sightlines against the ever-turning vault of the night. The people who raised these stones were not just honoring the sun, they were mapping time itself, using every light in the heavens to navigate their place within the great turning wheel of the cosmos. Across the Irish Sea, a different kind of celestial monument lies hidden beneath a grassy mound. Newgrange is a passage tomb, a structure older than both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids. For most of the year, its interior is a place of profound and silent darkness, but for a few precious minutes around the winter solstice, something miraculous happens. As the sun crests the distant horizon on the shortest day of the year, a slender beam of golden light penetrates a specially constructed roof box above the entrance. This light travels down the long, narrow passageway, over 60 feet into the heart of the mound, and finally illuminates the central burial chamber in a dramatic display of ancient engineering. This solar alignment is so precise, so deliberate, that it confirms the builders were master astronomers. They designed this tomb not just as a resting place, but as a mechanism to capture the first light of the reborn sun, symbolically bringing life and warmth into the realm of the ancestors at the year's darkest point. Yet the story does not end with the sun. The massive curbstones that encircle the base of the mound are covered in intricate carvings, swirling spirals, concentric circles, and radiating lines. While some may be purely artistic, many researchers see a celestial map etched in stone. These spirals could represent swirling galaxies or specific bright stars. The radials and circles might depict solar halos or even the paths of comets. The very orientation of the tomb's passage, while aligned to the solstice sun, may also point toward significant star groups that held meaning for the Boyne Valley culture. Some scholars propose that the complex patterns and the monument's alignment together encode a knowledge of the slow precessional wobble of Earth's axis, a cycle that takes 26,000 years to complete. This would be an observation of almost unimaginable patience passed down through countless generations. If true, Newgrange becomes far more than a tomb aligned to a sunrise. It transforms into a permanent library, its stones holding a coded record of the night sky as it appeared over 5,000 years ago. It is a testament to a culture that saw no separation between the cycles of life, death, and the eternal dance of the heavens. The light that enters its chamber is not just a solar event, it is the final piece of a celestial conversation, written in architecture and awaiting its annual moment to speak. The desire to map the heavens was not always about grand tombs or central temples. Sometimes it was written across the entire landscape. On the coast of Brittany in France, the Carnac alignments present a mystery on a scale that is almost incomprehensible. Over 3,000 standing stones are arranged in long, parallel rows that march across the countryside for kilometers, like a petrified army frozen in time. While many of these rows are clearly oriented to capture the solstice sun or the major standstill of the moon, their sheer number and precise geometry suggest a more complex purpose. The pioneering researcher Alexander Thom spent decades surveying these sites, and he proposed that certain alignments did not target the sun or moon at all, but instead pointed to the extreme rising and setting positions of specific bright stars. This idea transforms the site from a simple calendar into a sophisticated stellar observatory. Among the most dramatic stones at Carnac is the Grand Menhir Brisset, the Great Broken Stone. Though it now lies fractured in 4 pieces, when it stood it was a true giant, the largest standing stone in all of Europe, towering over 60 feet high. Its location is key. Researchers calculating the sky's appearance around 4,000 years before the Common Era have found that this colossal menhir, along with other key stones in the complex, could have formed sightlines pointing directly to the constellation Draco, the dragon. Why would this matter? At that distant time, the North Celestial Pole, the fixed point around which the stars appear to rotate, was not marked by our familiar pole star. Instead, it lay within the coils of Draco. The Grand Menhir, acting as a central foresight, could have been used to pinpoint this unmoving pivot of the cosmos. In a world where everything else shifted, the seasons, the sun, even the pole star itself over millennia, this stone would have helped mark the one spot in the sky that appeared eternally still. It served as a foundational anchor for all other celestial measurements. The thousands of smaller stones, then, might represent a vast and permanent record of movements measured from that fixed point, a sprawling stone chart of the turning heavens. The Carnac alignments are not a single statement, but an entire language, a silent epic of astronomy carved into the earth itself, using the unchanging pole as its first and most sacred reference point. The precision found at Carnac and Newgrange speaks to a shared celestial language, one that echoed across the Mediterranean to the ancient islands of Malta. Here, the Mnajdra temple complex stands as a masterpiece of prehistoric engineering, its honey-colored limestone walls curving into graceful, cloverleaf chambers known as apses. This is not a random collection of rocks, it is a meticulously designed instrument. On the mornings of the spring and autumn equinoxes, when day and night are of equal length, a beam of sunlight passes perfectly through the temple's main doorway. It travels across the central court to strike a specific, decorated altar stone deep within the innermost chamber. This annual event transforms the silent stone interior into a dynamic solar calendar, marking the crucial balance points of the year with a shaft of light. The builders achieved this alignment over 5,000 years ago without metal tools or written records, relying solely on generations of observed knowledge. While this solar alignment is the temple's most dramatic feature, the design suggests a deeper complexity. The orientations of the different apses or curved chambers within Mnajdra do not all point to the same solar event. Researchers propose that some of these architectural axes may be aligned not to the sun, but to the rising or setting positions of particularly bright stars. Stars like Vega or Capella, which featured prominently in the mythologies of later Mediterranean cultures, could have been targeted. This integration of cycles would have created a resilient and multi-layered calendar. The sun marked the broad, powerful seasons for planting and harvest. The moon's phases could have tracked shorter ritual periods, and the steady, predictable stars, whose positions shift only very slowly over centuries, would have provided a long-term framework, a celestial clock for tracking longer generational or ceremonial cycles. A temple like Mnajdra, therefore, was far more than a place of gathering. It was the community's central processing unit, a stone computer that synthesized data from the entire sky. By reading the light on its walls and the stars framed by its doorways, the people could navigate their entire world, from the practical timing of sowing seeds to the sacred rhythms that connected them to the cosmos. It represents a holistic vision of existence, where agriculture, ceremony, and astronomy were inseparable threads in the same fabric of life. This fusion of architecture and astronomy reached a breathtaking zenith in the jungles of the Yucatan. The Maya civilization perfected celestial observation, and their crowning achievement in stone is El Castillo at Chichen Itza. This magnificent step pyramid is a mathematical marvel disguised as a temple. Its 4 stairways each contain 91 steps, which, when added to the single platform at the summit, total 365, a perfect representation of the solar year. But the Maya gaze extended far beyond the sun. Their true obsession, woven into the very fabric of their cosmology and warfare, was the planet Venus. They tracked its complex 584-day cycle with astonishing accuracy, viewing it as the embodiment of the feathered serpent god Kukulkan, a deity of both creation and conflict. This profound reverence is literally carved into El Castillo. The pyramid's 9 terraced levels are divided by a central staircase, and the corners of each level are precisely oriented. Research shows these corners align with the extreme northern and southern rising and setting points of Venus over its 8-year cycle. The architects engineered the entire structure to serve as a permanent observatory for this single, brilliant wanderer. During the spring and autumn equinoxes, this celestial alignment becomes a visible spectacle. As the sun sets, the stepped terraces cast a series of triangular shadows along the balustrade of the northern staircase. These shadows connect with the massive stone serpent heads at the base, creating the undulating illusion of a giant serpent slithering down the pyramid. This is not a happy accident, it is a choreographed performance of light and stone timed to the day. For the Maya, it was the moment Kukulkan descended from the heavens to visit the earthly realm, a direct communion between the divine planet and the people. El Castillo stands as a three-dimensional almanac, a building that tells time in multiple layers, tracking the sun's year, the moon's phases, and the precise, ominous dance of Venus. It represents a civilization that did not just watch the sky, but built a stage for its gods to walk upon, ensuring their cosmic order was reflected and reinforced in the heart of their city. High in the dry desert air of New Mexico, a different kind of celestial machine operates in absolute silence. On a remote butte within Choco Canyon, three massive stone slabs lean against a cliff face. They did not grow there naturally, they were carefully positioned over 1,000 years ago by ancestral Puebloan people, often called the Anasazi. Behind these slabs, carved directly into the rock wall, is a large spiral petroglyph. For most of the year, it is simply an ancient piece of art, but at exactly noon on the summer solstice, a sliver of sunlight passes through a precise gap between the giant stones. It strikes the center of the spiral, bisecting it perfectly with a brilliant dagger of light. This is not a vague alignment, it is a stunningly precise solar event, a calendar marker etched into the landscape itself with minimal physical alteration. The so-called sun dagger transforms a natural rock shelter into a functional observatory, proving that monumental architecture was not required to achieve astronomical sophistication. The ancestral Puebloans used what the land provided, moving just a few key stones to harness the sun's path and mark the year's pivotal moment. This solar dagger was their way of pinning the longest day to the rock, creating a reliable, immovable reference point for their community's seasonal rhythms. Yet the spiral holds more secrets. Researchers studying the site have noted that other, more subtle light patterns play across the petroglyph throughout the year. A double dagger of light brackets the spiral at the winter solstice. Even more intriguing are the faint patterns that appear during the major and minor lunar standstills, the points in the moon's 18.6-year cycle where it rises and sets at its farthest extremes. The positioning of the three slabs is so exact that they may filter moonlight to mark these long-term lunar events as well. This suggests the builders were tracking more than just the sun. They were observing the complex dance of the moon with the same patient attention. Furthermore, the eastern orientation of the site and specific angles of light have led some scholars to propose it could also signal the heliacal rising of certain stars. The first pre-dawn appearance of a brilliant star like Sirius, which heralded seasonal changes in many ancient cultures, might have been announced by a distinct pattern of light touching a specific part of the spiral. If this is true, Mnajdra Butte becomes a multi-purpose celestial instrument. It is a solar calendar, a lunar tracker, and potentially a stellar alarm clock, all engineered with just three slabs of rock. It represents a philosophy of harmony with the environment, where the goal was not to dominate the landscape with colossal construction, but to listen to it, to find the points where the sky's movements could be revealed with the slightest, most intelligent intervention. The sun dagger is a lesson in minimalist genius, proving that profound astronomical knowledge can be written not in towering stone, but in the careful placement of a few key rocks and the patient observation of light. The minimalist genius of Mnajdra Butte shows that celestial observation could be achieved with subtlety. Yet on the plains of Germany, an entire society turned their gaze skyward, building a structure so precise it rewrote our understanding of Neolithic Europe. The Goseck circle is not made of towering stones, but of concentric rings of wooden posts, once standing within an earthen bank and ditch. discovered from aerial surveys, this site is often called Europe's oldest known solar observatory, a title it earns with breathtaking clarity. Its design is deceptively simple. Two opposing gates break the circular palisade. On the winter solstice, the shortest and darkest day of the year, the rising sun would have flooded perfectly through the southeastern gate. Hours later, the setting sun would have cast its final, fading light directly through the southwestern gate, framing the entire solar journey of that critical day. This alignment is so exact it leaves little doubt the circle was at its heart a sophisticated solar calendar, a communal focal point for marking the sun's rebirth. But the wooden posts hold a deeper secret. Recent detailed analyses of the site's layout suggest the solar gates were only part of the story. Researchers plotting sightlines from the circle's exact center through specific gaps in the inner ring of posts have found they point toward the horizon where the constellation Orion would have risen over 7,000 years ago. This is a profound shift in understanding. The stroke ornamented where culture who built this enclosure may have been tracking not just the sun but the stars as well. Orion, a hunter striding across the winter sky, could have been a crucial marker for them, perhaps signaling the arrival of the coldest season or timing specific ceremonial practices. If this interpretation is correct, the Goseck circle becomes a multi-layered observatory. The dramatic solar alignments mark the powerful, immediate turn of the year, a public spectacle of light and shadow witnessed by the entire community. The more subtle stellar alignments, however, might have served a different purpose, perhaps guiding a smaller group of learned observers in tracking longer cycles or in performing rituals tied to specific celestial myths. This integration of solar and stellar knowledge over 7,000 years ago reveals something fundamental. The drive to map the heavens was not a rare, isolated discovery of a single advanced culture. It was an early and widespread practice, emerging independently across the continent as soon as societies settled and began to farm the land. The people at Goseck did not need megaliths to encode their wisdom. They used the forest around them, shaping timber into a permanent record of the cosmos. Their circle was a communal clock, a ceremonial space, and an astronomical instrument all in one. It stands as a powerful testament to a shared human impulse to find order in the sky above and reflect it in the world below, using whatever materials were at hand to build a bridge between the earthly and the eternal. Beneath the sun-drenched islands of Malta lies a world turned inside out. The Hypogeum of Saflieni is not a structure built upward, but one excavated downward, a three-level labyrinth carved with stone tools directly into the living limestone over 5,000 years ago. It is a place of profound silence and echoing whispers, a subterranean temple complex dedicated to rituals of life, death, and what lies beyond. Among its shadowy chambers, one room stands out for its eerie properties. The so-called oracle chamber is acoustically extraordinary. A deep voice spoken into a specific niche resonates throughout the entire room with an amplified, haunting vibration, a phenomenon that must have seemed like the very voice of the earth or the ancestors speaking from the rock itself. But this chamber may hold another, more celestial secret. On one wall, there is a small, carefully shaped elliptical hole. While it resembles other decorative openings, its unique orientation has sparked a compelling theory. Researchers suggest this aperture was not just for air or sound, but for light, specifically starlight. Calculations indicate that around the time the Hypogeum was in use, this hole could have been precisely aligned to capture the first gleam of Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky, as it rose above the horizon on a key morning of the year. Imagine the significance in that absolute darkness. After a night of chanting and ceremony, with the acoustics making every word feel supernatural, a single, brilliant point of light would suddenly pierce the gloom. It would not be the warm, life-giving light of the sun, but the cold, pure, distant light of the dog star. For the temple's builders who revered a great Earth Mother goddess, this event would have been layered with meaning. The star's light, entering a chamber deep within the womb of the Earth, would symbolize a cosmic union, a celestial seed fertilizing the dark, generative heart of the world. Sirius was associated with renewal and the life-giving floods of the Nile in neighboring Egypt, and while Malta had no great river, the concept of celestial influence bringing forth life would have been powerfully resonant. This alignment transforms the Hypogeum from a silent tomb into a dynamic instrument. It connects the deepest, most intimate human space, the underground chamber of ritual, with the farthest, most brilliant point in the heavens. The oracle chamber did not just amplify sound to create the voice of a spirit. It may have channeled starlight to manifest the presence of a star god. In that moment, the boundaries between earth and sky, between the body of the goddess and the cosmos, would dissolve. The Hypogeum becomes a perfect microcosm of the ancient worldview, where every layer of existence, from the underworld to the highest stars, was interconnected and alive, speaking to humanity through stone, sound, and light. The deep, sacred union of earth and sky found another profound expression on the most isolated island on Earth. Easter Island's iconic Moai statues stand as silent giants, most with their backs to the sea, gazing eternally over the land and its people. But at the site called Akivi, 7 identical Moai break this pattern completely. They stand in a solemn row, their vast stone backs to the island's interior, their sightless eyes fixed intently on the horizon of the Pacific Ocean. This reversal is not an artistic whim, it is a deliberate astronomical alignment. From a specific ceremonial platform inland, these 7 statues frame the exact point on the western horizon where the Pleiades star cluster, known to the Rapa Nui as Matariki, sets during the June solstice. This timing is everything. For the Rapa Nui people, the celestial calendar did not begin with a sunrise but with a star rise. The first pre-dawn appearance of Matariki, its heliacal rising, signaled the start of the new year. It was a time of profound importance, marking the season for planting sweet potatoes and for launching the great fishing expeditions that sustained life on the remote island. The 7 stars of the cluster were seen as a constellation of great significance, often linked to ancestors, fertility, and navigation. By orienting the 7 Moai of Akivi to watch the Pleiades set, the builders created a permanent, terrestrial mirror of this celestial family. The statues become eternal sentinels, their stone gaze forever marking the departure of the star cluster that would soon return to herald renewal. This transforms the Moai from monuments of power into instruments of cosmic participation. They are not just facing the ocean, they are facing time itself, locked in a silent vigil with the stars that govern the cycles of life and survival. In their precise alignment, we see a culture that, despite the immense physical effort required to carve and raise these multi-ton figures, never lost sight of the celestial rhythms that dictated their very existence. The stones watched the stars so the people would know when to plant, when to fish, and when to celebrate the turning of the year, a breathtaking fusion of monumental art and essential astronomy carved into the landscape of a lonely sea. High in the windswept mountains of Wyoming, a different kind of celestial wheel turns in silence. The Bighorn medicine wheel is not a structure of timber or towering stone, but a delicate pattern laid upon the earth. From a central cairn of stones, 28 spokes radiate outward to a large, circular rim, with 6 smaller cairns placed at key points around its perimeter. This elegant design, built by Native American peoples centuries ago, is a perfect example of a portable knowledge system, a map of the sky so simple in its materials yet so profound in its purpose. Its alignments are breathtakingly precise. One outer cairn marks the horizon point of the summer solstice sunrise, while its opposite counterpart frames the sunset on that longest day. But the wheel's true sophistication is revealed when we look beyond the sun. Other cairns are aligned to the rising points of three brilliant stars: Rigel, the blue foot of Orion; Sirius, the dog star; and most significantly, Aldebaran, the fiery red eye of the constellation Taurus. This stellar alignment was not just for observation, it was for critical timing. In the weeks leading up to the summer solstice, Aldebaran would make its final pre-dawn appearance, its heliacal rising before being lost in the sun's glare. For the people who used this site, that last glimpse of the red star was a celestial alarm clock. It signaled that the solstice and the vital ceremonies and communal gatherings tied to it was fast approaching. The wheel provided a fixed, earthly reference to anticipate this crucial social and spiritual event. This transforms the medicine wheel from a simple pattern into a sophisticated, multi-purpose instrument. It integrated the solar cycle, which governed the broad seasons, with specific stellar markers that provided precise, short-term warnings. The knowledge was not locked in a temple or written in a book. It was encoded in the humble arrangement of stones upon a high mountain plain, accessible to anyone taught to read its alignments. It represents a philosophy of harmony with the cosmos, where understanding the sky was essential for maintaining the rhythm of community life, ensuring that ceremony and practical preparation were perfectly timed to the eternal motions above. While the Moai watched the Pleiades set, another civilization was building a temple to capture the eternal stars of the north. The Temple of Amun-Re at Carnac is a sprawling city of stone, a testament to pharaonic power built and expanded over 2,000 years. Most visitors marvel at its forest of colossal columns in the hypostyle hall, but few notice a subtle, deliberate shift in its grand design. The main axis of the later sections of Carnac does not run in a perfect straight line from the older structures. This slight bend, a mere few degrees, was not a construction error. Some Egyptologists propose it was a profound celestial correction. The temple was being realigned to target the northern circumpolar stars, those that never dip below the horizon in Egyptian skies. Known as the imperishable ones, these eternal lights were the ultimate symbol of unchanging life, the destination for a pharaoh's soul after his earthly journey. To ensure his eternal reign among these stars, his temple on earth had to point directly toward them. But here lies the challenge of precession, the slow wobble of Earth's axis over a 26,000-year cycle. This imperceptible drift causes the entire star field to gradually slide over centuries. The pole star of one dynasty would not be the pole star of another. The original alignment of an older temple, perfect for its time, would slowly become inaccurate. The architects of the New Kingdom, working centuries after the first stones were laid, faced a dilemma. They could either ignore the shifting sky and maintain the old, now symbolically flawed axis, or they could adjust their monumental architecture to correct for the cosmos itself. The evidence in the stones suggests they chose the latter. By slightly angling the new hypostyle hall and its processional way, they effectively updated the temple's celestial address. This was long-term astronomical planning on a dynastic scale. It means the priests and builders were not just observing the stars for a single lifetime. They were tracking their slow march across millennia, understanding that their sacred geography had to evolve with the heavens. This subtle bend in Carnac's axis is more than an architectural quirk. It is a stone record of patience, a testament to a civilization so committed to cosmic harmony that they would redirect a temple of gods to follow the true north of their era. It shows their astronomy was not static, but a living science, constantly refined to keep the bridge between Earth and the eternal stars perfectly and perpetually open. That subtle bend at Carnac reveals a civilization tracking the sky across generations, a patience mirrored in the jungles of the Yucatan at another Maya masterpiece. The Pyramid of the Magician at Uxmal rises with a unique and powerful silhouette, its base not a perfect square but a rounded oval, as if the very earth swelled to give it birth. Local legend says it was built in a single night by a dwarf king with magical powers, a story that hints at the awe its sudden, dramatic form inspired. But its true magic lies not in myth, but in mathematics and a relentless focus on a single wandering star. While its western staircase captures the setting sun on the summer solstice, the pyramid's primary axis, the direction its grand facade truly faces, is aimed with precision toward the horizon's southwestern edge. This is not a solar target. Calculations show it marks the extreme southerly setting point of Venus at its most distant wander from the celestial equator. For the Maya, Venus was not a passive light, it was the embodiment of Kukulkan, the feathered serpent, a deity whose cyclical appearances were meticulously calculated and deeply feared. Its 263-day period as the morning star was associated with war and conflict, its transition through inferior conjunction seen as a dangerous, liminal time when the god descended into the underworld. The pyramid's unusual oval shape and this precise orientation likely served a grand ceremonial purpose. When Venus reached this farthest southern point in its complex 8-year cycle, it would have been seen sinking directly along the pyramid's central line, as if drawn down into the temple itself. This event would have been a pivotal marker in the celestial calendar, a time for powerful rituals to either appease the warlike aspect of the god or to petition for the rains that followed its later reappearance as the evening star. The Pyramid of the Magician, therefore, is more than a temple. It is a specialized observatory and a cosmic anchor point. Its architecture captures a single, dramatic moment in a planet's long dance, freezing that celestial position in stone to ensure the community could anticipate, prepare for, and ceremonially engage with the divine force they saw moving through the heavens. It turns a planet's path into a pillar of their spiritual and practical world. The moon's long, slow dance was not lost on the builders of the Northern Isles. On the windswept landscape of Orkney, the Ring of Brodgar stands within a massive ceremonial ditch, a perfect circle of slender stones set against a vast, open sky. This is not a fort or a tomb, but a true henge monument, a place designed for gathering under the heavens. While debates continue over which specific stars its stones might frame, a compelling lunar story emerges from its geometry. The circle itself is not a random arrangement. Some of its remaining monoliths appear to be positioned as deliberate sighting markers. Research suggests that from the center of the ring, an observer looking between two particular stones would see the horizon point where the moon, at the peak of its complex 18.6-year cycle, makes its most extreme northerly rise. This event, known as the Major Lunar Standstill, is a moment of celestial high tide. For over a year, the full moon would rise further north along the horizon than at any other time in a generation, painting the ancient landscape in an unusually low, sweeping silver light. Tracking this cycle was an act of profound patience, requiring knowledge passed down across decades. Why would a community invest such effort in the wandering moon? The answer lies in power and prediction. In a society attuned to celestial rhythms, the Major Standstill was not just a spectacle. It was a key to unlocking one of nature's most awe-inspiring and potentially terrifying events, a lunar eclipse. Eclipses often occur in clusters near these standstill points. By carefully marking the moon's most extreme risings and settings over generations, the astronomers at Brodgar could have developed the ability to anticipate when the Earth's shadow might swallow the moon's light. This knowledge transformed fear into ceremony. Instead of a sudden, ominous portent, an eclipse could become a scheduled ritual, a time for the community to gather within the stone circle and perform rites to ensure the moon's safe return. The Ring of Brodgar, therefore, was likely a dual-purpose instrument. Its solar alignments marked the annual rhythm of seasons for planting and harvest, the practical clock of daily life. But its lunar alignments operated on a grander, generational scale, organizing society around epic cyclical ceremonies that connected them to the deeper, more mysterious pulse of the cosmos. It was a calendar not of days but of lifetimes, written in stone and waiting for the moon to complete its long, slow turn. While the moon's grand cycle was marked by vast rings, sometimes a single stone held the key. In the rolling hills of Cumbria, England, the long Meg stone circle presents a more intimate celestial conversation. The circle itself is composed of 59 smaller stones, but the true protagonist stands apart, a towering 12-foot-tall red sandstone pillar known as Long Meg. This massive outlier, positioned southwest of the main ring, is not a plain monolith. Her surface is a canvas of prehistory, carved with intricate spirals, concentric circles, and the mysterious cup and ring marks common in Bronze Age Britain. The primary circle is oriented so that on the winter solstice, the setting sun aligns dramatically between two specific stones, a clear solar marker for the year's darkest day. But Long Meg, standing alone, tells a different story. Her position creates a precise sight line from the circle's center, pointing toward the southwestern horizon. Researchers calculating the ancient sky have found that this line does not target the sun, but rather the point where the full moon would set during the period around the winter solstice. This is a subtle but critical distinction. The sun's path is fixed and predictable year after year, but the moon's journey is a complex weave, its rising and setting points sliding along the horizon in an 18.6-year cycle. By using Long Meg as a foresight, the builders could track this lunar wander, specifically noting when the full moon's setting coincided with the deepest part of winter. This lunar-solar interplay transforms the site from a simple calendar into a sophisticated observatory. The main circle marked the solar event, the rebirth of the sun, with communal certainty. Long Meg, the solitary, decorated sentinel, tracked the more elusive, silvery companion of the night. Her carvings might even be a record of these observations, the spirals perhaps mapping celestial motion or counting lunar cycles. She turns the entire landscape into a dynamic instrument, where one moves from the center of the circle to the outlier to read different pages of the cosmic clock. This highlights a profound principle. A single, carefully placed stone could serve as a precise, permanent reference point for tracking events that required generations to fully understand. Long Meg was not just part of a circle, she was its wise elder, holding the deeper knowledge of the night, her carved skin whispering secrets of the moon's slow dance with the winter sun. But the stars that guided the Maya were the same lights watched by far older eyes in a very different desert. Long before the pharaohs raised their pyramids, a group of cattle herders performed an act of celestial precision in what is now the blistering Sahara. At Nabta Playa, a vast, dry basin that was once a lush grassland, they arranged a collection of stones into a circle and a nearby calendar formation. This site, older than Stonehenge by over 1,000 years, is not a grand monument in the traditional sense. Its stones are smaller, seemingly humble, yet their arrangement speaks of a sophisticated and urgent need to understand the sky. Research into the site's layout reveals a stunning purpose. Key stones within the circle align with the horizon points where the three stars of Orion's belt and the brilliant star Sirius would have risen around 4,800 years before the Common Era. For these pastoral people, this was not abstract astronomy, it was a matter of survival. The heliacal rising of Sirius, its first pre-dawn appearance after a period of invisibility, coincided with the imminent arrival of the life-giving monsoon rains. When that star blinked back into view in the eastern sky, it was a celestial signal, a promise from the heavens that water was coming. The herds needed to be moved, the camps prepared, and the community mobilized for the transformative wet season. The stones at Nabta Playa served as a permanent, immovable alarm clock, etched into the desert floor to mark this most critical moment of the year. This transforms our understanding of history's timeline. Here we have evidence of deliberate, large-scale stellar alignment from a prehistoric society, a people without permanent cities or written records, yet possessing a precise and practical knowledge of the cosmos. Their careful observations of Orion and Sirius suggest something profound, that the roots of the magnificent Egyptian astronomy to the north may have been seeded here in the practices of these early Saharan pastoralists. They were the pioneers, watching the same stars that would later guide pharaohs to their eternal rest, proving that the celestial conversation began not in mighty kingdoms, but in the quiet, watchful lives of those who first learned to read the sky as a map for life itself. That same impulse to read the sky for survival drove an empire high in the Andes. Perched between jagged peaks, the stone city of Machu Picchu feels like a place suspended between earth and heaven. At its heart, within a temple of precisely fitted granite, sits the Intihuatana, the hitching post of the sun. This is not a simple pillar, but a masterfully carved three-dimensional model of the Inca cosmos. Its base mirrors the sacred mountains Huayna Picchu and Machu Picchu that rise around it, while its central gnomon or pointer angles perfectly to cast no shadow at the exact moment of the spring and autumn equinoxes. In that instant, the sun is symbolically tethered, its power captured to ensure balance and fertility for the coming season. But the Inca gaze extended far beyond the sun into the deep, star-rich skies of the southern hemisphere. The precise angles of the Intihuatana and the carefully oriented windows of the surrounding temple may have framed the rising of a constellation of profound importance, the Southern Cross. For the Inca, this was not just a cross of stars, it was part of a much larger celestial map. They saw the dark patches within the Milky Way not as empty space, but as living shapes, dark cloud constellations. One of the most significant was Yakana, the celestial llama, a dark silhouette stretching across the galaxy. The heliacal rising of the Southern Cross, its first appearance just before dawn, coincided with the reappearance of Yakana in the sky. This celestial event was a direct signal from the heavens, marking the beginning of the dry season and the time to drive the herds of llamas to higher pastures. By aligning their most sacred stone to these stars, the Inca were doing more than marking a date. They were enacting their cosmology. The emperor, the Sapa Inca, was considered the direct descendant of the sun god Inti. His ability to read and predict these celestial alignments through instruments like the Intihuatana proved his divine mandate to rule. It demonstrated his role as the mediator between the celestial realm of the gods, the Hanan Pacha, and the earthly world of humans, the K Pacha. Every planting season, every harvest, every movement of the herds was thus sanctioned by the stars and facilitated by the emperor's sacred knowledge. The Intihuatana was not merely an observatory, it was the pivot point of the empire, a stone interface where celestial order was confirmed and translated into earthly law, ensuring that the rhythm of the mountains moved in perfect harmony with the dance of the stars. While the Inca tracked the Southern Cross for their herds, another culture on a windswept island was charting a more complex and ghostly dance. On the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, the Callanish stones rise from the peat like a petrified forest, their dark silhouettes forming a haunting, cross-shaped pattern against the sky. This is not a simple circle, but a deliberate architectural statement, a stone cross with a central ring and a long, processional avenue leading north. Its primary alignment is not to the sun, but to a far more patient and elusive partner, the moon. The entire layout is engineered to capture a celestial event that unfolds not yearly, but once in a generation. The central avenue points directly toward the southern horizon, targeting the point where the moon, at the peak of its 18.6-year cycle, makes its most extreme low rise. This is the major lunar standstill. When this event occurs, the full moon does not climb high into the sky. Instead, it appears to skim the very edge of the world, a swollen, low-hanging orb that seems to roll along the horizon. From a specific viewing point within the stone circle, this creates a breathtaking spectacle. As the moon rises, its luminous edge appears to touch, then glide behind the distant silhouettes of the stones. It looks as if the moon itself is dancing a slow, stately procession along the ancient pillars, a choreography of light and shadow that repeats only every 18 or 19 years. This was no accident of placement. It represents a staggering feat of long-term observation. To design a monument that so perfectly frames an event that occurs just a few times in a human lifetime required knowledge passed down through generations. The builders had to watch, record, and remember the moon's slow creep along the horizon over decades, then translate that celestial knowledge into a permanent stone template. For the Bronze Age community, this generation-spanning event was likely the pivot of their ceremonial world. It would have been a time of immense gathering, of storytelling that connected the elders who last saw it to the children who would witness it for the first time. The stones provided the stage and the seating for this celestial performance, ensuring every person had the perfect view of the moon's hypnotic, horizon-hugging dance. Carnac is a masterpiece of lunar architecture, a monument built to patience itself where stone captures the rhythm of a lifetime. While the moon danced at Carnac, the Maya were perfecting a different kind of celestial observation, one dedicated to a single, wandering god. At Chichen Itza, the caracol stands apart from all other structures, a round stone tower perched on two rectangular platforms, resembling a modern observatory dome. This radical circular design in a world of angular pyramids shouts its purpose. It was built for one thing: to watch the sky with unerring precision. Its name means snail, a reference to the spiral staircase inside, but its function was anything but slow. Narrow, slit-like windows pierce the tower's upper chamber, and these are not random openings. Research has shown that the most important of these windows align perfectly with the extreme points on the horizon where Venus, at the farthest limits of its complex path, would set. One window targets the planet's most northerly setting, another its most southerly. This is the key to a grander cycle. Venus does not simply rise and set in the same place each night. Its path as the evening star sweeps back and forth along the horizon over an 8-year period before it vanishes, only to reappear later as the morning star. By marking these extreme northern and southern boundaries in stone, the Maya astronomers created a fixed, permanent bracket in the landscape. They could watch Venus year after year, noting where along that bracket it disappeared each evening, and from that data, they could predict its entire 8-year dance of appearances, disappearances, and transitions. This was high-stakes astronomy. Venus, as Kukulkan, was a god of both creation and destruction. Its periods as the morning star were intimately tied to warfare and royal authority. Knowing precisely when it would emerge or vanish was a source of immense power, allowing the ruling class to schedule military campaigns, coronations, and critical ceremonies to align with the perceived will of the celestial serpent. The caracol, therefore, was not just a building, it was a precision instrument of state. Its unique form allowed for sightlines unachievable in a standard pyramid. It turned the planet's meandering journey into a measurable, predictable path between two stone-framed windows, giving the Maya a cosmic calendar they could literally watch unfold against the horizon. In this round tower, we see the crystallization of an entire civilization's obsession, a dedicated machine for tracking the heartbeat of their most fearsome and revered god. Yet another stone circle, this one in the sun-drenched hills of Portugal, tells a story of celestial knowledge built in layers. The Almenda's cromlech is not a single, frozen moment in time, but a living document, its stones arranged in two distinct elliptical rings that seem to have grown from the earth itself. What makes this site extraordinary are the symbols, cup marks, and carved rings, etched into the surfaces of several menhirs, as if the stones themselves were taking notes. While the primary axis of the complex aligns with the sunrise on the summer solstice, the story deepens when we look to specific stones within the rings. From the precise center of the larger circle, certain monoliths act as perfect foresights, framing a narrow window of the eastern horizon. Researchers calculating the ancient sky have found that this window targets the rising point of the fiery red star Aldebaran, the Eye of Taurus, during the period of the spring equinox thousands of years ago. Another alignment may have captured the delicate Pleiades cluster rising around the autumn equinox. This suggests the circle was a multi-purpose instrument, its solar alignment marking the powerful, communal turn of the seasons, while its more subtle stellar alignments served a different, perhaps more specialized purpose. The carvings on the stones might even be a record of these observations, a permanent ledger of celestial events witnessed over generations, but the true genius of Almenders lies in its timeline. Archaeological evidence shows the site was used and modified for over 2,000 years. This means the people who first raised the stones to mark a star rise were not the same people who, centuries later, might have added a new menhir to refine a solar alignment. Each generation inherited the stone map and had the knowledge and the authority to edit it. The circle became a palimpsest, a manuscript where older celestial meanings were not erased, but built upon, creating a cumulative record of the sky as understood across millennia. In this quiet Portuguese field, we see astronomy not as a sudden discovery, but as a slow, collaborative project, a conversation with the cosmos written in stone and patiently updated by every generation that learned to read the stars. Beneath the waves off Japan's coast lies a mystery that blurs the line between geology and genius. The Yonaguni Monument is a sprawling underwater formation of massive, flat terraces, sharp angles, and what appear to be carved steps and channels, submerged in deep water for potentially thousands of years. Its discovery ignited a fierce and ongoing debate. Mainstream geology points to the powerful forces of sandstone fracturing and marine erosion, capable of creating surprisingly regular shapes. Yet, other researchers see the handiwork of a lost culture, noting features that seem improbably geometric, like twin megaliths that look like carved pillars and a triangular pool that resembles a ritual basin. If these are indeed the ruins of a purposeful structure, the implications are staggering. Some investigators have proposed that the monument's primary terrace is oriented to face the rising sun on the winter solstice. They suggest that channels and rock marks could have served as sightlines for tracking not just the sun, but also significant stars as they rose over the ancient shoreline when the site was above water. This theory, while fascinating, remains highly speculative and sits far outside the consensus of academic archaeology. It lacks the corroborating evidence found at terrestrial sites, like tool marks, artifacts, or a clear cultural context. Yet, the very possibility opens a profound and haunting line of thought. Our planet's coastline has changed dramatically since the end of the last ice age. Vast areas of continental shelf, lands where early humans lived and built, were swallowed by rising seas. How many other potential Yonagunis lie hidden in the silent dark, their celestial alignments forever muted by the ocean? This underwater enigma, whether a masterpiece of nature or a sunken temple, serves as a powerful reminder. The map of ancient human achievement is not complete. Entire chapters of our astronomical heritage, stories written in stone by coastal cultures, may be lost beneath the waves, waiting for their stories to be rediscovered or forever resigned to the realm of tantalizing mystery. The mystery of sunken ruins like Yonaguni reminds us how much celestial knowledge may be lost to time, but sometimes the ancient sky was captured with breathtaking clarity. In the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, we find a star map carved not in rough stone, but in exquisite detail upon a temple ceiling. This is the famous Dendera zodiac, a sprawling bas-relief created during the Greco-Roman period, a time when Greek and Egyptian cultures intertwined. It is not a megalithic structure in the sense of massive, rough-hewn stones, but it represents something equally profound, the formal culmination of thousands of years of Egyptian sky watching, a perfect snapshot of how the priests of the late era understood the cosmos. The circular zodiac is a precise chart of the night sky, depicting the constellations not as abstract dots, but as vivid Egyptian gods and sacred animals. Scorpio becomes the goddess circuit, Taurus is shown as a bull, and the central figure is not a bear, but a hippopotamus goddess holding a crocodile. This was their celestial mythology rendered in stone. The temple's very orientation and the zodiac's specific placement within the sacred architecture were not arbitrary. They suggest a deep, intentional integration where the stories written in the stars above were mirrored in the rituals performed in the halls below. The ceiling was the sky and the temple was the world. This formal, artistic representation shows a critical evolution, how later cultures preserved, codified, and beautifully formalized the same stellar relationships that much older, megalithic builders had hinted at with standing stones and solstice alignments. The people at Newgrange were not just observing the stars, they were enshrining an entire cosmic order, creating a permanent, indoor planetarium that linked every celestial movement to the divine narrative of their gods. It stands as a magnificent bridge connecting the primal, earth-bound astronomy of the Neolithic with the sophisticated, recorded science of the classical world, proving that the human desire to map the heavens only grew more intricate with time. The formal zodiacs of Egypt show a culture codifying the sky, but some of the oldest alignments speak a quieter, more personal language. Among the gentle hills of the English Cotswolds, the rollright stones hold a peculiar magic. The complex includes a solitary king's stone, a whispering knight, and a circle known as the King's Men. This circle is not perfectly round, but a slightly flattened ring of weathered limestone blocks. While many stone circles show solar or lunar alignments, the King's Men presents a more stellar mystery. Some researchers, analyzing the positions of the stones with modern software, have noticed a curious correlation. The layout of the circle, the specific placement of its 77 original stones, appears to mirror the pattern of bright stars in the constellation Cygnus, the Swan. This is not a general resemblance but a statistically significant match, one that suggests intention rather than random chance. If this alignment is deliberate, it represents something rare and profound. Instead of a single stone pointing to a star's rise, the entire circle becomes a terrestrial tracing, a one-to-one map of a celestial shape permanently fixed upon the Earth. The question becomes why this constellation? In the mythology of Northern Europe, Cygnus was often seen not just as a swan, but as a psychopomp, a guide bird carrying the souls of the departed to their resting place in the afterlife. The rollright landscape itself is rich with ancient burial mounds, making it a classic funerary site, a place deeply connected to rites of passage and the journey beyond life. In this context, the King's Men Circle transforms from a simple gathering place into a symbolic landscape. It would be a sacred diagram connecting three realms: the earth where the stones stand, the sky where the swan flies, and the unseen world to which it guides the spirit. Walking within that circle would be to walk directly upon a star map of the final voyage, a powerful act of cosmic participation meant to harmonize the fate of the individual with the eternal patterns above. This potential alignment offers a glimpse into a deeply personal astronomy, where the stars were not just markers of time, but a literal roadmap for the soul's most important journey. This deep personal astronomy finds its ultimate expression in the grandest planned city of the ancient Americas. The Street of the Dead cuts through the heart of Teotihuacan, a vast ceremonial avenue flanked by massive pyramids and platforms. Its orientation is precise, deliberate, and puzzling. It is aligned not to true north nor directly to a solstice sunrise, but 15.5 degrees east of north. This specific angle has long intrigued researchers, for it seems to point away from the most obvious solar events. The answer may lie not with the sun, but with a delicate cluster of stars that held immense power in the Mesoamerican sky. On a key evening each year, this grand avenue would have framed the setting point of the Pleiades, known to the Nahua peoples as Chanquistli, or the marketplace. This star cluster was far more than a pretty grouping. It was a celestial linchpin. Its first pre-dawn appearance, its heliacal rising, was the signal that the current 52-year calendar cycle had ended and a new one could safely begin. This period, called the New Fire Ceremony, was a time of profound anxiety and renewal, when all fires were extinguished and relit from a single sacred flame, symbolizing the rebirth of the sun and the continuation of time itself. To align the primary axis of your entire city to such a star is a statement of cosmic ambition. It means the urban plan of Teotihuacan, from the Pyramid of the Sun to the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, was conceived as a permanent terrestrial echo of a specific celestial order. The Street of the Dead becomes more than a processional way. It is a frozen river of stone mirroring the path of the star cluster that governed the most critical moment in their long count of years. Walking down that avenue was to walk in alignment with the very mechanism of cosmic renewal. The builders were not just observing the Pleiades, they were building the world beneath its gaze, ensuring their entire civilization operated in harmony with the stars that dictated the turning of their greatest cycles. The final stone enigma lies not in a circle or a pyramid, but in a collection of near-perfect spheres. Scattered across the river deltas of Costa Rica, the stone spheres of the Diquis culture are masterpieces of geometry. Ranging from the size of a melon to over 2 meters in diameter, these orbs were crafted from hard granite with astonishing precision, their surfaces smoothed to a near-flawless roundness centuries before modern tools. They are often discovered in groups, arranged in lines, triangles, or arcs near the sites of ancient chiefdoms. While their exact purpose remains one of archaeology's great puzzles, a compelling celestial theory has emerged from their patterns. Some researchers, mapping the arrangements of these spheres, propose they were not placed randomly. Specific groupings, they suggest, could be terrestrial models of important star clusters, or perhaps even the wandering paths of planets as observed by the Diquis astronomers. Imagine a powerful chief walking a visitor through a curated garden of these spheres, pointing to one cluster and naming it for the ancestors, to another for the star that signals the rainy season. This would have been more than art, it would have been a demonstration of sacred knowledge made permanent. By possessing and displaying this stone map of the heavens, a leader could physically embody a connection to the cosmic order, using it to legitimize authority and unite the community under a shared celestial narrative. This idea, while still awaiting conclusive proof, opens a vital final perspective. It reminds us that the ancient language of astronomy was not spoken only through towering menhirs or vast pyramids. Sometimes it was whispered in the elegant, deliberate placement of sculpted spheres, a subtle and sophisticated form of monumental art that turned the landscape itself into a three-dimensional star chart. The Diquis spheres challenge us to look beyond the obvious, to see that the desire to mirror the cosmos could take countless forms, each a unique dialect in humanity's universal conversation with the night sky. Yet beneath the varied dialects of stone and star, a single, profound conversation echoes. From the lonely moai of Easter Island to the bustling Street of the Dead, these 25 structures are not random monuments. They are bridges. Each one was a deliberate attempt to span the vast chasm between the human realm and the cosmic, to tether the fleeting concerns of daily life to the eternal rhythms of the heavens. This dual purpose is the key to understanding their true genius. On one hand, the alignments served the most practical needs of survival. They were agricultural calendars carved in granite, their solstice sunrises and star risings telling farmers exactly when to plant and when to harvest. They were navigational aids for both sea and spirit, guiding Polynesian voyagers across the ocean and Egyptian pharaohs toward the afterlife. In a world without written almanacs, these stones were the community's shared memory, a permanent and public library of celestial timing that ensured the continuity of life itself. But to see them only as tools is to miss their soul. The spiritual dimension runs even deeper. These alignments were sacred pathways. They guided the souls of the departed, like at Newgrange where the winter sun's beam was a ladder of light for the ancestors, or in the Rollright Circle, a map for the spirit's journey. They honored and housed deities, from Venus descending the staircase at El Castillo to the Pleiades setting along the axis of Teotihuacan. By mirroring a constellation in pyramids or a star's path in a temple window, these cultures were doing something extraordinary. They were asserting a divine order onto the earthly landscape. They were saying the cosmos is not chaotic, it is patterned, and our place within that pattern is intentional and secure. The ruler who could read and monumentalize that pattern, like the Sapa Inca at the Intihuatana, derived his authority from it. The community that gathered within it, like at the Ring of Brodgar for a lunar standstill, participated in it directly. This shared impulse reveals something fundamental about our species. Faced with the vast, indifferent beauty of the night sky and the relentless cycles of life and loss, these early civilizations sought meaning and a kind of permanence. The stars wheeled and returned, the seasons came and went, human lives flickered briefly, but stone endures. By translating the ephemeral dance of light into the immutable solidity of megaliths, they made the cosmic tangible. They built anchors against the flow of time, creating fixed points where heaven truly touched earth. This was not science versus spirituality. It was a unified vision of existence where knowing when the rains would come was as sacred as knowing where your soul would go. The Goseck Circle farmer watching for Orion and the Carnac priest correcting his temple's axis were engaged in the same great project, using the sky's language to write a story of order, purpose, and connection. That story, written in 25 different dialects across the globe, is perhaps humanity's first and most enduring epic, a testament to our unshakable desire to find our reflection in the stars and finding it to build a monument so the world would never forget. That shared human impulse to build bridges to the stars leaves us with a profound legacy. Our journey through these 25 sites reveals a hidden layer of history, not written on parchment, but etched in stone and illuminated by starlight. These monuments were far more than tombs or temples. They are frozen snapshots of ancient skies, permanent records of a moment when a community looked up, recognized a pattern, and chose to anchor it to the earth with colossal effort. They stand as testaments to a universal cosmic curiosity, a deep-seated need to find our place within the grand celestial tapestry. From the Goseck Circle's wooden posts to the Great Pyramid's celestial shafts, the same story is told in different stones. The precise alignments with Orion's belt, the Pleiades, Venus, and the Solstice sun are not random. They are a language, a deliberate and purposeful conversation with the cosmos that transcends any single culture or epoch. It speaks of a time when astronomy was not a separate science, but the very framework for spirituality, survival, and society. This shared celestial grammar challenges our modern perspective, urging us to look up and wonder with the same reverence as our ancestors did. It asks us to see these ruins not as dead piles of rock, but as active participants in a dialogue that began millennia ago. What other celestial secrets might these silent sentinels still hold? As research continues and technologies like LiDAR reveal hidden structures, new alignments will surely come to light, adding fresh sentences to this ancient conversation. We would love to hear your thoughts. Which of these alignments did you find most fascinating? Was it the sun dagger's minimalist genius, the caracol's dedicated Venus tracking, or the haunting lunar dance at Calanish? Share your favorite in the comments below, and if you are captivated by these mysteries, subscribe to delve deeper into the world's greatest historical puzzles. For now, remember this: the next time you find yourself under a clear night sky, gazing at the familiar patterns of the constellations, you are participating in a tradition as old as humanity itself. You are looking at the same stars that guided the builders of Stonehenge, the astronomers of Uxmal, and the navigators of Rapa Nui. In that simple act of looking up and wondering, you are continuing the most ancient and enduring of all human journeys, the search for connection in the vast and beautiful cosmos above.